Okay, so I am going to kickstart now. So as you can see, today's session is, I'm not going to introduce about myself. It's everyone knows about me, so I don't want to waste my time. So we'll kickstart. So I have total 9 missions here. So if you see, I have 3 resource groups. One is Windows 2019, the other one is Windows 2016, the other one is multi-subnet. So today's topic is all about how will we configure always on availability groups on Azure VMs. So we have multiple scenarios here. So I want to cover those scenarios, and trust me, these scenarios are not being I mean, the people outside people, they are not aware of these topics for sure, I can say. So after this session, you will definitely feel comfortable, and you will be way ahead than the others. That is what my intention behind this session. So here I'm going to cover about 2016 clustering, how it works and how it differs in 2019, and the concepts of single subnet, multi subnet, and DNN, it's called as distributed network name, and VNN, the traditional virtual network name, what we have for SQL. So these are the things that I'm going to cover. And in the next session, so I will come up with some interesting topics. Those are with respect to configuring always on across the regions. And also you will see, if time permits, I will come up with clustering using it's called a stored space direct, which is very new topic again. So all these topics is going to be very new. For a few of them, you might feel little difficult in understanding, but it's okay. You can come back to me after the session. I will explain you each and everything later. That's not a problem. So for the beginners, it will be a bit difficult because I already added these missions to domain controller, and those are already there. So you might have questions like how to add a mission and how to create a mission. So those are all fundamental things. So I'm not touching those things. So I'm just concentrating on the things that are most required for the DBS. And also the adding emissions to the domain and creating the machines. These are all not being done by DBS unless there are no Windows team for you in your environment. So that's the reason I'm not touching those. But definitely, if you want that, I will share. That's not a problem. I'm recording the session, so don't worry. You will get the recording session for sure. So before diving in, I will just see the final count and I will kickstart. I think we are 34. Uh, so okay, 34. Okay, I'll start because it's already 9:10 here, so I don't want to waste the time. Okay, so let me show you. So I am on Windows 2016. I'll show you the version. So I am on Windows 2016, and this is my domain controller. So I just started 3 missions now. I just connected to 3 missions: Node 1, Node 2, and domain controller. So this is on 2016. Let me show you this mission. Host name, and this is Node 1, and this is my Node 2. Okay, so this is my Node 2. So as I said, I have 3 missions now: Node 1, Node 2, and domain controller. Domain controller. So I already added those missions to domain. So I will show you that. How many of you are familiar with Active Directory and DNS part? So these topics, what I'm going to discuss. So this will touch base those things: Active Directory and DNS, both of them. So I will just open up them. It might be new, as I said. Some might feel little difficult to understand, but it's okay. I will come back to you later. But first, try to digest the things. Bear with me for a few minutes. So once we dive in, you will come to know what I am explaining about. So I have only 3 records inside here. That is DC machines record 10.25.0.4, node 1 IP and node 2 IP. And inside the Active Directory, I think I already opened. So I have only 2 machines, node 1 and node 2. So the first scenario, now I'm going to explain you about the scenarios. So let me show you up. Clustering on Windows 2016. So the main difference when it comes to clustering in on-premises and Azure. So what is the main difference? What we notice is when we create the cluster, cluster will have a component by name virtual cluster name. So that is virtual cluster name is nothing but when you create the cluster, you will get the name for the cluster and the relevant IP. But interestingly, when you perform this action on cloud, especially the Azure environment, you will notice few changes. So which we are going to see right now. So this is my first step, creating the cluster on Windows 2016. So we'll see that now. I'm just clicking on create cluster. So as I said, I have two machines. So I'm going to add them up. Node 1 and node 2. If you find difficulties, I will come back to you. But once I complete this topic, you can ask me the question. So I will answer those questions topic wise. Okay, so I'm adding those two machines. Machines were added, and I'm not going to perform the validation tests because I already done it. So it's okay. So if you see the difference here, this is the main difference I want to highlight. So these are the things that you want to remember. This makes you different from others. So when you comes to creating the cluster on premises or when you practice on virtual machines, you will see a name and at the bottom you will see an IP. So you will configure an IP too. But if you see here, it is not asking me to create the IP. It is taking up the DHCP. DHCP stands for Dynamic Host Configuration Protocol. Means it will take one of the IPs uh, that whatever the IP that is free on these machines. So I will tell you again the difference when it comes to on-premises and clustering on Azure. So I'm creating the Windows cluster, and at the bottom in on-premises, you will definitely see the IP, but here there is no such component like IP. We are just going to create the name. And what happens is that you will get one IP, like I have two machines, right? Node 1 and node 2. Node 1 is having an IP with 05 and node 2 with 06. It will take one of those IPs. Once I create the cluster, you will come to know. So let me create the cluster. I will name it as Windows Cluster 2016. Next. So don't ever click on this button when you are not working with firewall clusters. So don't ever do this. If you do this, all the disks, whatever that are there, they are going to convert. They are going to get converted, and it will be a huge problem. I've seen a few of my friends, and for that matter, even I did. Not on the real-time scenarios. When I was practicing, I did this and I made a mess. So don't ever do this. Don't ever. So I'm stressing that part. So next, click on next. Just wait for it to happen. And there is one difference that I want to show you. If you see here, the cluster object got created inside the Active Directory. So from until 2003, Windows 2003, my cluster services they were run with the service account. But from 2008 onwards, I mean to say Windows 2008, they are now running with local system account. That's why you are seeing an object over there. Let me show you. So my cluster got created. Let's just wait for it to come back. Before that, I will show you my cluster services. If you see here, my cluster services, they are running with local system account. This is what I'm just talking about. So until 2003, Windows 2003, they were running with domain account, I mean to say. So from 2008 Windows, it got changed. The clustering components got changed, and this service is now running with local system. So since this is running with local system, whatever the objects that you create on the cluster, they will get recorded inside this Active Directory. In the same manner, if I go to DNS Manager, and this is my domain name is redmond.com. That is the domain what I created. And if you see Windows cluster, it got created. And if you see here, it got created with node 1's IP. So this is what I'm explaining. When it comes to on-premises, you will reserve that IP and you will get a different IP from your network team or hosting team, whatever the team it is, and you will create that IP. But when you create it on cluster, it will take one of those IPs. So either it will take on node 1 or it will take node 2. So since it is taking one of those IPs, it will be not in online state. So it will be offline. Where am I? How to, I'm seeing this at the bottom, how to clear off this. I'm not sure, but let me open again.
Try to minimize the RDP and maximize again.
Minimize the RDP, okay. But still it is the same case.
Not minimize, you
Auto hide.
medium size. Yeah.
Okay.
Double click on the RDP, then we'll come to know that niche wala.
Or the other way, like you can take out
Drag it.
the
Vamshi, you can drag it, that blue bar, that RDP bar, you can drag it so that you can see all the RDP bars.
Okay.
Drag left side, click on
Okay,
the
okay.
blue bar.
Yeah.
And you can drag left or right side, you can see all of them.
At the bottom, I am witnessing these components. That's okay, fine. I will somehow manage.
Do one thing,
Yeah.
Go to that same screen. Bottom, you just click on the taskbar once, and again on that window. Just once on taskbar.
Yes, taskbar, if you go to taskbar.
Okay,
Yes,
log the taskbar. Okay.
No, not required. Just click on service. Yeah, just click on services.msc screen now.
Yes.
Yes, just click. Now you can see.
Okay, okay, got it.
Now you
Got it.
got, yes.
Yeah. Thank you.
No.
Yeah, so this is what guys, if you're not talking, you can just mute yourself. Okay, thank you. Now I got it.
Or else you can connect the cluster, right?
Yeah. So if you see Windows cluster 2016, so this is the problem. So the first scenario, this is the first scenario. If you see here, the current host, it is, the Windows cluster core components, they are running on node 2. That is why you are seeing online on node 2, but it will be offline on node 1. Since it took the IP of node 1, it will be offline on node 1 and it will be online on node 2. So it is our responsibility. I mean to say, it is up to the Windows team or yourself. So you have to assign one static IP here. So this is on 2016 Windows, not even on 2016. I think it is the same scenario for 2012 also. So this is a key difference between Windows cluster on Azure and Windows cluster on On-Prem. So you have to understand this. First thing first, so when you create the cluster on Azure, you will get one of the IPs of the nodes that are participating in the cluster. So it can be either node 1 or node 2. So it will be in offline state. So for that, you have to assign a static IP. So I am assigning it 20.25.7. And I'm clicking OK. Okay. Yes.
So Vamsi, so they said Alok here. So we are giving the cluster Windows cluster IP, right?
Yes. We are not
0.7.
we are not discussing anything with respect to SQL now. So the main focus is all about Windows clustering. So I want to show you Windows clustering first, so that I can go to my SQL next. So if you understand Windows clustering, it will be easy for you. Yeah.
So 2014, I don't think this issue is there.
There is no such version like 2014 when it comes to Windows. We have 2012, 2012 R2, 2016, 2019.
Oh, no, not about SQL. So Windows version 2012, I think this issue is not there. right?
Yeah, I think so, because I didn't test on Windows 2012, but it is there from 2016. So if you try,
So
yeah,
2012 R2 with SQL 2014, I did with storage space direct actually.
okay,
Cluster build. I didn't face this issue.
okay.
Yeah, actually, Vamshi, I have done on different Windows clusters, but anyway, it will take anyway it takes one of the in Azure. Definitely, it takes one of the Windows IP so that it automatically goes down. So we have to set an
Yes,
static IP
yeah.
for every version. I've tested for different types of versions.
So that is there, but if you see on 2019, it will get changed. So just bear with me for a few minutes. So I just created the Windows IP now. I mean, the static IP, I have passed it. And if I go to my DNS, so let me go to my DNS. And if you see here, let me refresh. Yeah, so my Windows cluster is now with 07. It's not 5 or 6. It has come up with 07. So this is the first thing you have to remember. And let's now go into 2019 machines and see how it behaves. So now if you have any questions, just let me know. So I just explained about Windows clustering on 2016. So it is the same for 2012 also. I believe it's so. So this is in another domain. So I just named it as MVP. So you'll come to know what is the difference in 2019. Why I am highlighting this, there is a topic for this. That's why I'm very keen on this topic. There is some critical thing as a DBS you should be aware of. So that's why I'm specifying this. Any questions when it comes to cluster creation? We just created the cluster. There is nothing great that I have done. But in case if you have any questions, yeah.
Before creating the cluster, I think we have already done the adding the node part, creating the Active Directory, and adding the payload cluster services, right?
So we are just creating the cluster. This is not failover cluster. This is on always on. So we don't have the shared storage concept. So
right.
It's just creating the cluster. So I just need to install my failover clustering feature, and I just need to add them up to domain. So let's wait for this. I think we are ready. 2019. Yeah. So this is my 2019 machines. And if you see, yeah.
Vamshi, I have a doubt. Like, so in for cluster configuration of always on Azure, do we need to set up any configuration for particular always on Azure for the clusters itself inside the cluster?
No such configuration. But as I said, when you are doing it on-prem, so most of these things will be taken care by your Windows or hosting team. But if you are working on an environment where you don't have such team, so if you have to configure, so you have to reserve a static IP. So that static IP will be there even on 2019 when you are dealing with on-prem. But when it comes to Azure, so it will take one of the IPs of the nodes that are participating. It can be either node 1 or node 2 or node 3, whatever it is. So you have to change that back to some other static IP. So that is the difference, and you don't need to take care about any extra things.
Okay.
So let me show up this. This is very important, this DNS Manager, because if you want to understand what is DNN, this DNS Manager is the critical thing. So 2019, where am I? Yeah. Okay, so if you see, I have just missions being registered. So this is with domain controller 04, 05, and 06. So these are my IPs for 2019. And let me create an Windows cluster here on 2019, and you will see an interesting scenario. And I have a question for you. If anyone answers this, trust me, I will keep that person in my mind for sure. Just wait. So I'm going to create the cluster on 2019. And create cluster. Okay, so browse. I have two machines with me.
Hello.
Yeah.
I am not able to hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, Kundan. So I just have 2 machines. I'm adding those machines here. Next. So same thing, you will not get the static IP, just like what we have seen for 2016. It's the same scenario. Let me name it as Windows Cluster 2019. Next. Don't do this. Next. And let me go to my domain controller and I will show you up. This is my 2019. I'm saying it I'm saying it again. So let's wait for it to create that. So it got created, Windows Cluster 2019. Let's see this. Okay, it finished. So now the question starts. Let me open this up. Yeah. So let me pull 2016 cluster just once. It is on 2012. Yeah. So if you see here, what it is, the naming says cluster core resources, right? I'm on 2016 and it says cluster core resources with the virtual server name and virtual server IP of the cluster. And if I go to my 2019, so the name itself is different. Here it is called as distributed server name. And are you able to see IP for the cluster?
No.
Yeah, no. So if I go here and if I click, I will go to the properties just to see if there is anything that we can do from here. Nothing. It's just the policies and dependencies.
This meeting is being recorded.
There is nothing here. So my question to you all is how I can create a static IP for Windows 2019 cluster on Azure VMs. So that is my scenario. And I will open up the cluster command. So let me open the new cluster. New cluster. That is the command what we use to create the cluster, right? So new cluster. So these are the things. New cluster. I will pass on the cluster name and the nodes and storage and the static IP. So let's try with static IP and see if it works or not on 2019. So before creating that, so if you see on 2019, if I make use of GUI, there is no concept of static IP. There is no concept of static IP. And I'm saying it again, no concept of static IP. There is no chance for you to create a static IP on 2019. Okay, so I'm opening this cluster parameters from the Microsoft. And here there is something like static address. So I'm just trying to create the same thing. Let me do up to here, or I will go up to here. 2019, I will destroy this cluster so that we can create the new one. So if you know the answer, you can definitely let me know how to create a static IP for Windows 2019 cluster. You can search the entire internet. Okay. And if you are aware of this, just let me know. In the meantime, you can search. It's open offer. Okay, I just deleted the cluster. Oh, again, I'm getting this. What to do? Oh, how to minimize this here? Okay, okay, I got it. Thanks. Thank God. So this is the command, right? So if you see here, I am on new cluster window. So it says the name, what is the cluster name that I need to pass, the nodes, it can be any number of nodes, node 1, node 2, node 2, it can go up to 8 or 16. I'm not sure with the exact number. And here there is a component like static address. So let's pass the static address and see if I am able to create a Windows cluster with static IP on 2019. So I have one more thing like administrative access point. So here we have four scenarios. So for administrative active point, it's called as active directory and DNS and none. So I will show you what that is about. So just bear with me for a few seconds. So in this case, I'm going to create. I'm trying to create an IP with static IP with 10.19.0.7. Let me check my IP first, whether I'm in different series. Yeah, 05. Okay. So I'm going to create a static IP for 2019 and see if that gets created or not.
You can use in the command as a management point network type. If you want to use it as distributed, if you use distributed, it will just use the DNN name, and you won't have to use a static IP. But if you use a singleton, then you will have to give a static IP address.
Okay, who is this?
Akanksha.
Akanksha. Hi, Akanksha. So do you know what is singleton and what is distributed?
Yes, so singleton will use, that's a traditional method, just how we use in 2016, where we use a static IP address for the cluster. So
Okay.
that's singleton. And distributed is where you use a distributed network name, and it would use your node IP address rather than a static IP address.
Okay, you are almost there. I think I can say you answered this. I can say there is just one thing that is missing, but I will just explain it later. But you are almost there.
Okay.
I will definitely remember you, Akanksha. Good, very good. Let me open the cluster. Because the problem with this is, I will show you in my next slide. So see here again, I specified the cluster IP here. I specified it as 10.19.0.7, but still you are seeing with DNN, you are not able to see an IP for this cluster again, even despite of passing the static IP to the cluster command. So as Akanksha suggested, so there is one more point here that is called as management point network type, which if you go to my documentation of Windows cluster, I mean, this is the official Microsoft documentation, even you will not see here. There is no such thing like management access network point. So what is that management point network type? So we have 3 parameters here. I will show you management point network type. And if I just click that, so you will see automatic, distributed, singleton. So as Akanksha said, so she specified about singleton and distributed, and there is something known as automatic too. So why I'm getting this cluster without IP despite of providing the static IP is because this is the reason. This is the reason you have to keep in your mind. When you are creating a cluster on Azure VMs, especially on Windows 2019, it will go with this automatic parameter. So that's the reason, even though you are passing cluster IP, it will not take. It will not take. You do n number of things, but it will never take the cluster IP unless you point singleton. This is very, 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 very important. Okay, so there are 3 parameters: automatic, distributed, and singleton. I'm talking about 2019, especially 2019, because there is no way to create a static IP unless you use singleton as the parameter for management point network type. The reason behind this is, if you don't pass this parameter, by default, Microsoft cluster would detect this as Azure, and it will create DNN, I mean distributed cluster, instead of the traditional cluster. This is the critical point that I want to highlight. So I will stop here. And if you have any questions, you can fire it up now. So Akanksha, special thanks to you because you answered it. So that's the only point I want to highlight. Automatic is one more option where, since we are running on Azure VMs, so it will detect that and it will create that without the static IP. That's the only thing. So, but you answered it. I'm very happy. So now question time. Any questions, or can I move forward?
Vamsi, is it looks like a stretch cluster?
No, this is not stretched cluster. And if you see my IPs, I am in the single subnet 10.19.0.5, 6, and 7. So those are my IPs. I don't have any stretched clusters. This is not multi-subnet.
I have one
it's
question.
actually IP. It's not visible properly. Okay, no issue.
Yeah, go ahead. Akanksha, you were saying something.
Yeah, I have one question. Now, you are using a static address for your cluster.
Yeah.
And let's say in a real-time scenario, you're randomly using it's a random IP that you use, considering you know that this IP is not in use anywhere.
Yeah.
But in a real-time scenario where you have 200s or 500s of servers, do you still recommend to use a static address like this, or do you recommend any other way of using or getting a static address?
This is very good question. So this is the point that I want to highlight as a DBA, what you should be aware of. So this is a good question, but in real time, naturally, if you see, this will be taken care by Windows team, right? We don't interfere that. Usually we will not create Windows cluster. So this is not our duty. So it is up to the Windows team whether they are aware of it or not. So I'm not sure whether Windows team is, there are few people which definitely they will come to know. And say for some reason, as you asked, if I have not created this static IP, what happens to me as a DBA? Okay, I will show you one thing. Just a second. SQL. Just a second. So yeah. So imagine you got a chance where you have to create Windows cluster on Azure VMs. This is Azure SQL cluster, not Windows availability groups. I'm talking about SQL Server failover cluster. Okay, so this is a blog where I came across and I came to know what happens to DBA when we don't do this. So this is important. So you are creating a failover cluster on Windows 2019, especially I'm talking about SQL failover clusters. Okay, and if you start the installation on failover cluster, SQL failover cluster, you will be gone. You will never able to create your cluster for sure. So it will stop here and it will pop up with error, and it is very difficult to troubleshoot. This is what you have to keep in mind. Again, I'm saying this is only for SQL Server failover cluster on Windows 2019, not for Windows 2016 or something else. Again, Windows 2019, if you don't create the static IP. So this is what I want to show you. So if you don't create the static IP with singleton, so if you start the cluster installation of SQL, you will never be able to create this cluster because you are created with DNN. That is the problem. This is the thing that you should keep in your mind when you are working with 2019 clusters, especially on Azure VMs. So this is the answer, Akanksha. So if you are working with Windows team, they will take care of it. If you are not working with them and they have created the cluster, it is up to us. It is up to us as a DBA. You have to check what is the IP, whether they have created with distributed server name or whether they have created with IP or not. And if you are not checking this part, and you as a DBA, if you go there and if you just try to start the installation of SQL, failover cluster, it will be gone and you will not be able to figure out that easily, because this is the only blog across the internet I came to know what is the reason that we should not use DNN for Windows cluster on 2019. Otherwise, there are no reasons. If you are working on availability groups, fine, you can leave it. That will work for availability groups. That's the only issue with failover cluster, SQL failover cluster. This is one more point that I want to keep. I want to show you up. So any questions now?
Well, I have faced this issue in 2019. I have also faced this issue in 2016, where the cluster was installed previously, and then we had to install SQL Server. Same kind of error, more or less same kind of error comes.
Okay, is it failover cluster or always on availability? It's failover cluster. Okay.
Failover cluster.
Yeah, you will see the issues. Yeah.
Yeah, it was the same issue. Now, the point was, because in my current organization, we don't have a separate Windows team.
Okay.
As a DBA, I would only create the failover cluster and I would only get the static IP. So the point was, in case we don't have a static IP in hand, what are the other ways we can get those IPs? So there are a few ways, right? From the load balancer, from where you get the listener IP. Same way you can generate a static IP from there. You can use it as a cluster IP. There's another way as you can create a static IP on the NIC of the VM, and you can get it as well. Yeah. Okay. Well,
but NIC on the VM, it will be little tricky. I will just try to avoid that, because since we are on Azure VMs,
Yeah. The pro ports would not work if you have a static IP created from the NIC. So for cluster, if you use 58888 as a port, that would be a tricky task to cope up with it. So yeah, I agree. Thank you.
No problem. So I think Akanksha, since she has already done with this, she is feeling absolutely comfortable. But for others, is it okay, or do you have any questions?
Up to now, I didn't work on 2019 version. In
Okay.
previous 16, I have worked, and 12
Yeah.
I worked, and 14 also I've worked. Where we in cloud, we have to automatically certain static IP. Based on that, we have to configure the all SQL Server.
Yes. So
So
if you are dealing with 2019, as I said, just keep in mind, just go to your Windows cluster before doing anything, even always on availability groups. Just go there and see if they have created the Windows cluster with the distributed server name or the traditional cluster setup, like what you have seen on 2016. So this you have to keep in mind. If you don't, no problem. There will not be any problem when it comes to availability groups. But if you are working with failover cluster of SQL, you will certainly face some issues for sure. So is everything okay, or yeah?
Vamsi, I have a question.
Vamsi,
See, if the suppose
go ahead.
the cluster is in multi-subnet, or else
I
if we
will
have two,
no.
three clusters
I
like
will talk
DAC
about
connection.
one second.
Yeah,
I will talk about multi-subnet later.
sure,
I'm
sure,
coming
got
with
it.
phase by phase. So
Got
since I
it.
have created the cluster, right? So I created the cluster with static IP, but it didn't take. As Akanksha said, we have to point out as a singleton. So let me go to my domain controller and see how it is. If you see here, Windows cluster, that is the cluster what we created for 2019, and it took the IPs of node 1 and node 2. Understood? But this is not the case with what is that, the 2016. So we have only one IP that took either node 1 or node 2, and we changed it to static. But here, if you want to change it to static, you have to use singleton. And this is the concept of DNN, distributed network name. There is nothing a great topic. What happens behind the scenes is it will take the IPs of all the nodes that are participating inside the cluster. Say for example, if there are 4 nodes, you will see Windows cluster object getting created with all those 4 IPs, 7, 8, 9, 10, whatever it is. So this is the thing that you have to remember. So this is the same logic works for always on listener as well. When you're creating the DNN listener, the same logic, same concept would get applied. So that's why I'm stressing more on Windows cluster, so that I can say it looks similar to always on SQL as well. So let me open up my dsa.msc. So here you will see Windows cluster 2. And there is one more thing that I want to highlight. If you are using the command administrative access point, I want to discuss this as well, because this is also a new topic. We have the options like Active Directory and DNS, only DNS and none. So I have created a scenarios for me, because I created all my scenarios. So if you see here, I created without that management point network type. This is the key. This is the key part. Management network point type. If you don't create that, you will not get the static IP. So the second thing I want to stress is all about administrative access point. Let me go to my mission so that it will be easy for you. Let me remove this administrative access point. Yeah, and these are the parameters: active directory and DNS, only DNS and none. So when you are, usually it is by default active directory and DNS. When you create it via GUI, or when you via GUI, it will be active directory and DNS. And if you don't want that object to be created inside your active directory, you can make use of DNS, but I don't recommend that. You definitely rely on active directory and DNS. That is the good part. So why I'm stressing this, just to ensure that you are good at Windows clustering. So if someone asks you some questions on Windows cluster, you can say that I have created the cluster. I can create the cluster only at DNS level. You can say that you have created the cluster only at Active Directory level. You can say I have created at both levels. And there is one more thing called as management point network type, which many people might have not observed. And if you want the static IP for Windows 2019, you have to pass it as singleton. So those are the things that I want to highlight. So next I will discuss about the SQL part. But these two things, Active Directory and DNS, and management point network type. I hope you got my points. And if you are having many questions in your mind, I will, after the session, you can talk to me. I will definitely try to clear them. So any questions now? Can I go ahead?
I have
So can you tell me? Can you tell me a little bit more about the management point network type?
Yes.
Because in 2016, in my organizations actually, so we are handling with that always on and other issue. So So Windows team build up that actually cluster, and after that part they handed over to us. And SQL part actually we are dealing with that. Once actually the listener IP configuration is there, so then we have to tell them to map with that actually NRQ and the DNS, and then that time actually you are getting a response, and we are getting that always on part very well. But in this case actually management type, management point network type.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can just give us more idea, so that will be good.
So just the key points, I will just stress on the key points. So if you are working on Windows 2019, so if the Windows team handles those scenario, if they are aware of this this parameter, so they will create with singleton, because they don't want to mess up their cluster, so they will go with singleton. In that case, whatever the static IP what they pass, it will get created, and it will be their traditional cluster like what we are seeing it on-prem. If they don't go with that management point network type, and if they have created it with the GUI, then you will not see this option. So it will be created like this, like what you are seeing. So it will be only name.
Okay.
In that case, what happens to you as a DBA? I'm just again saying it from DBA perspective. Since we are all DBS, and if you are trying to create failover cluster, SQL failover cluster, I mean to say it's not availability groups, it's SQL failover cluster, then you will face an error what I have shown, like what I'm just shown, like here. Where is it? This guy. So that cluster will get fail for sure, and the installation will not progress, and you have to deal with many. I mean, you have to come up again. You have to create the cluster with the traditional traditional cluster, not the DNN one. So this is the only point that you have to keep in your mind. And the second thing is, where is that? Yeah. Again, I'm getting this. Yeah. So if you don't pass this, there are 3 parameters for this, right? Management point network type. One is singleton, which I just highlighted. Distributed is the second thing. Like it will take the IP of either node 1 or node 2. That is the one what that happens inside 2016. This automatic is the one. Say for example, if you are creating the cluster on Azure VMs, the VMs will detect this as automatic. I mean, it will detect this as Azure VM, and it will get created automatically without the IP. Even if you pass the IP, it will not take. So once again, so forget about the rest of the things what I explained. I want to stress only 2 points. Create the cluster with singleton. Okay. And if you don't create the cluster with singleton, the only issue what you face is with SQL failover cluster. Rest all, nothing you can ignore. Just wipe out from your brain. The rest of the points you can wipe out. There's no need to remember all these things. As a DBA, just I'm saying. Okay. So in the interviews, if someone asks you, you can say all these things. It will be definitely fetching, because these things are not being done by many people. I'm stressing you again. These are the questions that I went and asked to Microsoft people. Even they didn't work on this. So these are very new things. So that's why I'm stressing on these topics. Okay. So I think Akanksha, you were saying something. What is it?
Yeah, I was actually talking about administrative access point, but
yeah,
I'll wait for you to wrap up management point network type first.
Yeah. So if I go on to if I go on just with Windows cluster, so SQL I won't be able to configure. So I've just created this with the traditional GUI method, and this is what I got. Why I'm seeing this at the bottom? I heard this. Okay. Okay, let's move on. So can one help me? I don't want to see this.
Make this as auto hide so that you can task manager.
Vamshi, if whenever you want, means
okay,
can,
okay. Yeah, I got it.
click on Windows.
Got it. Now it is no more. So we are on 2019, I guess. Yeah, we are on 2019. Let me check the Windows version. Yeah, 2019. So let's move to 2016 now and try to create the listener part. I mean the SQL part. Yeah. So how many of you are aware of the load balancer stuff? Why I need load balancer?
Yeah, for the static IP of listener.
Okay, so why I need to configure? That is my question. I know that we need to use static IP for listener. So what is the internal reason why it is not required on on-prem? Why it is required on Windows clusters on Azure VMs? I mean on Azure VMs. Why I need load balancer on Azure
To
VMs?
resolve DNS and
To
failure to happen.
balance the load from the public IP.
No.
So,
No.
so because because in load in the cloud
To
environment,
divert
so
the traffic.
Yeah, divert the traffic.
No, the divert the traffic is not the right answer. So no, that is wrong. So if someone answers this again, I will remember.
See, the load balancer is equal to the listener actually.
That is
In
fine.
order to
Yeah.
listener.
Yeah, I understood. Load balancer is required, but why I require that load balancer? It's not about balancing something or distributing the load. The name says load balancer, but that is not the real reason. So why I need load balancer? Why can't I create a cluster without load balancer on Azure VMs? What is my problem? Where lies the problem?
Well,
Yeah.
Well, you can create a cluster without load balancer in 2019,
Yeah.
but you basically need an internal load balancer for SQL Server to provide a single point of IP address for SQL Server. Secondly, the load balancer also listens for any requests and routes to the active node.
No.
Yeah, it routes the traffic to the active node.
That is true, but I want the main reason. I want the correct reason for this. Why I need load balancer? It's very see. I know many of them will say I need load balancer on Azure VMs, but if I ask the question why, I got very different answers. No one has answered this question properly. If anyone knows this, they can answer now. But I'm telling you, it's not for routing. It's not for load balancing. Something blah blah blah. It's not the case. I will explain you now. So if someone knows, they can say. But otherwise, I will explain you now. This is also very internal, and you will come to know why I need load balancer.
It's related.
Yeah,
it's related with the operating system internal connection.
You are almost there.
Client...
Yeah, but I want the reason. That is true, but what is that? Which layer is stopping us from doing this? Because on-prem, I never created load balancer, right?
Yes.
No, I don't. There is no need for me to create load balancer on-prem. So why I need this only on Azure VMs?
So
it's a subnet level. It's a subnet level we can divide.
No,
you can say that.
No. I will say no because I don't have time. That's why. So don't feel bad that I'm talking.
No.
Yeah. So just understand that. So I'm not rude to anyone.
So Vamsi, it's only for the application point of view, because if we are not getting the load balancer, so application will not be connect.
That is the reason.
Will not be connected.
Yeah. So if the application, if it wants to connect from outside world, I need load balancer. But why I'm not doing it on-prem? Why it is required only on Azure VM? Okay. So I didn't get the right answers. Sorry for that. So I will show you something new now. So how many of you are good at networking, like the network layer 3 and network layer 2, especially layer 3 and layer 2? So I will just say you something. Network 3 deals with IP addresses and network 2 deals with MAC addresses. MAC is nothing but the identification of the mission. So that is called as MAC address. It's a 48-bit, whereas network is 32-bit. These things are...
Vamsi, sorry to interrupt you. Just one second. I'm telling about that in the layer about that. Is it going to actually, are we good about the transport layer that is working on for Azure load balancer or whatever load balancer?
No. So this is the thing. So these type of things you will never come to know unless you dig in so internally. I will show you now.
Yes.
So I am on 2016. Okay. So let me show you. Doesn't matter whatever the version, 2012, 2016, 2019, it doesn't matter. So just look at this IP addresses. Let me zoom. Properties. Yeah.
The on-prem, in the on-prem load balancer, if one connection has been down and either of the node will be active if you are using that based on the static IP address.
I didn't get you, but I will come back to you later. Let me explain this
it's
thing.
It's the same in Azure as well.
Yeah, it is
it's
the same.
It's the same in Azure as well.
Same in Azure, right?
Yeah.
Now you will come to know. So just look at these 3 MAC addresses of 4 and 6 and 1. Forget about the rest. This FFF and blah blah blah. I don't want. forget about the static ones. Just focus on this type dynamic, and just remember the first few lines, maybe 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So they are in the sequence. So this is on Windows 2016. Okay. And let me pull the same thing on Windows 2019. I think I am on 2019. Let me just double check. Yeah. So by this, you will come to know. Just believe me, guys, if you say this internally to any of the interviews, just imagine the kind of impression that you will get. So you will come to know now in a just fraction of seconds. So properties, font, let me put it to 72. Oh, it's too big. 28. Okay, so I am on 2019. Those missions are completely different. They are in completely different VNet, and I have 2016. And if I type ARP-A, what is ARP? ARP stands for Address Resolution Protocol. Address Resolution Protocol. So what is ARP? It's very simple. If I know the IP address and if I want to figure out the mission, I need these ARP tables. It's nothing but. So how many of you are aware of DNS? DNS is nothing but mapping between IP and name, right? In the similar fashion, ARP is mapping between the IP and the MAC address. So ARP tables are meant to map the IPs and the relevant MAC addresses. So that's the duty of ARP. So coming back to ARP now. So I am on 2019, and if you see the ARP tables, if I go to the physical address, it says 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And the same thing, if I go to 2016, it's saying the same thing, right? If you type this on your on-prem machines, definitely you will not see the same result. Okay. And now you will come to know the reason why I need load balancer, because on-prem, when we fail over from node 1 to node 2 or node 2 to node 3, whatever it is, behind the scenes, there comes the MAC layer, because the IP what we got for listener, whether it is SQL IP or Windows IP, forget about the listener, forget about the concept of Windows or SQL. Just we'll talk on the normal layman terms. When the node gets failed over from one node to another node or whatever it is. So the IP, the floating IP, what we call it as floating IP, means it has to float from node 1 to node 2 or node 2 to node 3, right? So for that floating IP to work, you need to identify the mission, because for example, node 1 is down. So I have two missions, node 2 and node 3. So it has to float either on node 2 or on node 3, right? So it has to float. For the floating to happen, you need to know the MAC address. But the problem with Azure VMs is it will never expose you the underlying MAC addresses. That is the problem. And the underlying protocol, the answer to this question is gratuitous ARP. It's not just ARP, it is gratuitous. It's something, again, the internal concept. If you want people, I will explain you later, because it's very internal. Because I will show you. I think I installed Wireshark somewhere. I think on this mission. So this is not one.
This is deep,
yeah.
I already forgot what is MAC address.
So this is Wireshark. So I installed the Wireshark and I came to know how it works. I think this is, if I touch base this, the entire session will go, will not go off as per our plan. So I don't want to discuss this, but if someone asks you why I need load balancer, that is the point I want to discuss. If someone asks you why the load balancer is required on Azure VMs, why not on on-prem? It's because the internal MAC addresses on all the Azure virtual machines, whatever the mission you create, doesn't matter whether it is Windows 2012, 2016, 2019, you will see the same MAC address. And if the listener wants to get failed over from one node to another node, I can say the floating. I will use the term floating because at the time of creation of load balancer, I will show you what is floating means. So I will use the term floating. It has to float from one node to another node. So since it has to float from one node to another node, it has to identify the mission. But the problem is I have the same mission names here. So if you see where it can float, whether it has to float for node 2 or node 3 or node 4, it cannot float. It doesn't know the MAC address. So how can it float? So that's why I need load balancer. It's not about balancing the load or routing the traffic, blah, blah, blah. No, because since I am not aware of my physical address, that's MAC address. People call it as physical address or MAC address. So it's the same thing. So since I am not aware of my mission, I cannot identify the mission when it gets failed over. I need to use load balancer on single subnets on single subnets. I'm again coming back to the topic where I started, on single subnets. It's not about multi subnets, it's on single subnets. Means I have the same address. If you see here, I have, let me just refresh this. I think it's already there. Okay, we created, I think we'll see. So let me go to domain mission so that it will be easy to figure out. Any questions here? I will stress again and again on this point, because this is the critical point. Many people will answer left and right with unknown answers and vague answers. No, those are all not the answers. The right and the relevant answer is all about identifying the mission, and that too with MAC addresses. And the ARP protocol will not work. What happens behind the scenes is ARP protocol will not work on Azure VMs because there is no support for unicast or broadcast. Again, I'm using the terms unicast and broadcast, which is difficult to explain right now. But if time permits, I will come up with one more session, and I will explain you what is unicast and what is broadcast and what happens behind the scenes. So this is bit internal. I know many of them you might feel little, difficult, but that is how that it works on Azure VMs. That is the reason we need load balancer. Any questions?
Without creating load balancer, can we work in the Azure VMs?
Yes, we can. That is the second topic. So that I will show you in the multi-subnet topic. But on single subnet, I'm showing you single subnet is nothing but how can you say whether I'm on single subnet or multi-subnet? I hope many of you people might know this answer, but for the people who are not aware of single subnet and multi-subnet, if you see my IP addresses,
same series.
yes. So it will be the last before series, like this part, this octet. If it is same, then it is single subnet. If it is different, then it is multi-subnet. So I am on the same subnet now. Even on 2019, on 2016, doesn't matter. I am on the same subnet. So if you are on same subnet on Azure virtual machines, you have to use either load balancer or DNN for your listener to work. Again, I'm saying if you are on same subnet, and if you are on Azure VMs, if you are working with Azure VMs, and if you want your failover to work as expected, you either need load balancer or DNN. Otherwise, you cannot. I mean, if your listener gets failover from one node to another node, you just cannot connect. I'll show you now in another couple of minutes. So can I go ahead, or if you have any questions?
So single subnet means the same net ID will be for all machines, right?
Same. I mean, if you see this, I have 10.25.0.5, 0.6, 0.7, right? So each why can I say this is octet? They call it as octet, 8-bit octet. So the last series 5, 6, 7. If this only differs, this is called a single subnet. And from here, if any number gets changed, doesn't matter where if for example 10.25.1.5, 10.25.2.5, that itself means I am on different subnets. So except the last part, if everything remains the same, then it is single subnet. If anything gets changed from the third octet, it is multi-subnet. Okay, so that is what you have to remember. Only the last part remains the same in single subnet. If anything gets changed from this to my left hand side, from the third octet, then it is multi-subnet. So for the moment, I am on 2016 and I have single subnet servers. Any questions? So did you understand what is ARP? Why I need ARP? Or any confusion?
Yes, I understand.
Yeah, I'm a bit tricky how internal mechanism, it can switch over to the from network 3 to network 2.
Because on physical machines, if you run the ARP hyphen, just run ARP hyphen A, that's it. It's more than enough. You will come to see different mission addresses for each mission. But on Azure, if you just type ARP hyphen A, you will see the same MAC address for all the missions on the earth. On the earth, I am saying that means I don't know how many missions we'll have. So for all the missions, it will the same MAC address. Since it doesn't know the MAC address, since it doesn't know for where to float from node 1 to node 2 or node 3, it has to use either load balancer or DNN. Okay, so
anyway, load balancer will annually route to the active node only, right? Definitely.
Yeah, it is the load balancer duty so that it will help you to float that IP, whatever you reserve inside the load balancer, that is nothing but your listener IP. It will redirect you to go to the primary replica. It is the duty of the load balancer to float your always on listener IP or Windows cluster IP, whatever the IP, it has to float. It will help you to float from one mission to another mission. It's like the navigator. I can call it as a navigator because it is the one that is redirecting you to go to the primary replica. Without creating the load balancer, no, I cannot float. I will always sit on my primary replica. I cannot, to the outside people, they just can't connect.
Can we see based on the load balancer, can we restrict to the primary server, like primary server to read for read-only purpose? We can route it to the secondary server and
no, that is different topic. Like read-only routing, what we have inside the SQL is something different, and the load balancer topic, what we are discussing, is something different. I don't want to mess them up.
Okay. Yeah. Got it.
So in the interviews, I'm saying if any of you go for the interview purpose, and if someone asks you, or even if they don't ask you, just project them that you are super good at Azure VMs and you have created load balancers, and you can say you have created DNNs and you know the internal reasons. Just explain them why it is happening behind the scenes and what is happening behind the scenes. Definitely they will get impressed for sure. So these are all the things that I want to touch base. I know I'm getting late. It's already 1 hour. I'm not running with the timelines, but still, if you guys understand the concept, that is what I want most. I will take some more sessions. That's not a big problem for me. But the main concept is you have to understand the concepts. So
what I conclude is actually for that when we are saying for the load balancer, the internal thing is that not ARQ. ARP, and actually we can say that actually this is why you are using that ARP, because of that actually same the names, actually the name physical MAC address names. So that's why actually we need that load balancer to point out that actually active connection or active node.
In the interviews, just say since on all the Azure virtual machines I will get the same MAC address, and my listener, since it has to float between the nodes, so there should be some mechanism where it can help you to float from one node to another node once it gets failed over. So that's the reason I need load balancer. The name says load balancer, but that is not the right term. It should be something like navigator or some other term. It should be helpful to identify, but people call it as load balancer. So that's the reason if I ask this question, people will say it will help you to balance the node. Why to balance? Because on-prem, are we balancing? No, we are just giving the listener name. We will get the static IP from the network team or hosting team, and I will just pass on that. I am not balancing something. The balancing comes with read-only routing of SQL. That is completely different topic. This topic is completely different. They are not at all one. They are not same. Okay, so now
for database level load balancing is different, and here the load balancing is used just to identify the machines.
Yes.
Since the MAC addresses are
same
everywhere.
Yes, that's true. Okay.
So, Vamshi, this load balance is configured. This configuration will be done by Wintel team, right?
Yes, load balancer will be done by Windows team, but in few cases, as say for example, as Akanksha in their company, she's doing it. So if that is the case, you have to do from your end. So I will show you how to create load balancer as well. But load balancer has been created by many people, and if you watch any YouTube videos, no one will say why I need load balancer. That is the problem. That is what I want to expose here. Okay, so that is my motto. It's not like doing the same thing of what others did. It is something very different, and you have to understand the concepts. It's not blindly that you need load balancer. Why I need load balancer, you will come to know now. I will show you the domain also. Okay, let me create the one database, dummy database. I have something like
Vikram here. First of all, thanks that you have the things you have shared. But one thing, can you just show your screen, that ARP screen?
Okay, sure.
Okay.
This is the ARP screen.
One. See, I just have some doubt regarding that N2506 up to 1.0.1, 0.4 and 6. Now 0.15. Okay, if you check the physical address. Okay. Physical address here it is changed, right?
Yes. So, but this 10.25.0.15, it is not related to any nodes here. I have only 4 nodes. sorry, 3 nodes: domain controller, node 1 and node 2. And this mission name is registered with, I think, what is this? Node 1, right? This IP is 5, I guess, 10.25.0.5. Yeah, that is my IP. And if you ask me what is the 10.25.0.15, it is, I think, probably some kind of gateway. Again, what is gateway? So again, if I go into my internal network stuff, yeah, it will be difficult.
I get confused, so that is the reason I just.
So this is not related to any of my virtual machines. So this IP is different, and you will see the same IP for all the machines. I guess it will be there on even on 2019 as well. This is kind of gateway, and I will dig in if time permits, but this is not a good idea. So I will show you the listener concept now. So I have to show you load balancer and listener. So already I told you it's just 1.5 hours, but believe me, it is going way slowly now. So I have to wrap it off.
No problem.
So node 1, node 2, I don't have anything.
Ramsey. We are enjoying your conversation.
Yeah. If you guys are interested, I can talk continuously. For me, it's not a problem. So it's up to you guys. Let me create availability group. Next, something. I think I'm on 2016, right? I'm not sure where I'm.
Around 16 guys.
I think, yeah, better to check. Yeah, 2016. So I will say AG 2K, AG 2K16. And it's just the same creation, nothing great here. Just add the nodes. Connect, and I'm just making it. Oh, hold on. Why I'm seeing failure mode external? Wait. What happened? Okay, but why I'm seeing external? It's something new.
No, while creating AZ, you have selected.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah, it has to detect, right? It has to detect. Why it is detecting external? What we did?
It automatically detects.
Yeah, because this is Windows cluster, it has to detect. See, external will come into picture. Set to external when the because I have did in on Linux also. So for Linux, we will use cluster external, but not for Windows.
Yes.
Okay, let it be. So okay, let's do it on 2019 rather than if something goes wrong. So my intention will be lost. So I don't want to mess it up. Let's do this on 2019. External will come into picture if you are working with Windows and Linux or completely on Linux, or if you have any third-party setup. So that is where you will come to see as external, but not for Windows cluster. So I'm surprised to see that. I will check that later, but we can work on 2019 as well. No problems. Let's wait for it to come up. In the meanwhile, we can create load balancer before the creation of listener. As well, we can do it later also. So it is up to us. So let's create one load balancer. That will be easy. Load balancers. So how to create load balancers? So if this is new for, I think most of them, I don't think they have experienced this. So if it is new, so you have to go to your resources and just type load balancer. If someone, I think it's already there, I will delete this and I will recreate. Okay, I'll create one more load balancer otherwise. How to delete this? Why I'm not getting delete?
Click on the load balancer. Click on the load balancer. Open it.
Okay.
There you can see delete.
Yeah, thank you. Because I have to show it from the scratch. It will be easy for you because if I show it from here again, I cannot explain you everything. Yeah. Create load balancer. And when it comes to creation of load balancer, again, there are few things that you have to keep in mind. So I'm stressing the important points here. So if you go again, if you watch my video, why I'm stressing this, you will come to know. So let me select the resource group 2019. We can create load balancers on 2019 as well as on 2016. It doesn't matter. So since we got something like external there, I don't want to take that risk. Let me check what is happening here. I hope you got something new. It's not the same old story, right? At least.
Yes, Vamsi. Yes.
Yeah, thank you. Because all these sessions are there on the internet, but I have not seen anywhere explaining the clearly what is. Yeah. Okay, this is also external. It has to detect the Windows cluster. Okay, let's move on. AG2K19. I think it is there on 20. Yeah.
Actually, that is a big advantage to join a live demo class instead of attending any YouTube.
Yeah. AG2K19 and I'll say test. Okay. I'm surprised to see this. 21, 1, 2. Make this synchronous. I'm not creating listener here. I'm just creating the availability group. I think database is already there. So join only. Okay. So this is my primary. Okay, so it is there already. So I don't have the listener now. Okay, so how to create a listener? That is the question. So for that, I need to create load balancer or DNN. So I will show you load balancer first because that is the topic that is there from many years. So I have to show load balancer first, and then I will create distributed network name DNN. That is one more type of thing. So let me create the load balancer. So I will select the Windows 2019 and let's name it something LB2K19. So now again a question for you all guys. So what is this standard and basic? When should I use standard? When should I use basic? If anyone knows, just they can answer this. Hello? Hello?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, I forgot. Actually, I know this, but I forgot what to tell.
Okay, so when to use basic and when to use standard. So again, let me go back to my missions. It's okay. If you see here, I think for 2016, I need one. Where is 2016? Let me group it. So I'm just showing you the mission. So I'm just going here. Are you seeing this availability and scaling, or should I zoom? Are you able to see, or should I zoom?
We are able to see.
Okay, so are you seeing this availability and scaling? And there are two things that you have to remember. One is called as availability set or availability zone. And this is required for you to configure load balancer. Otherwise, you will not be able to create load balancer. Again, this is one more thing that you have to remember. So at the time of creation of missions, I cannot show you now. At the time of creation of the machine, so you will get the option either to place them in availability set or availability zone. So what is availability set or availability zone? Again, it is something internal, like availability set, it deals with concept of fault domains and update domains. And availability zone, it deals with the different data centers, what we have within that region. So I have to keep my missions either in availability zone or in availability set for the creation of load balancer. And for the creation of DNN, I don't require this. Okay, so this is required. I know it will be something clumsy for you. If you don't understand, I will show you. I will try to make you understand. But let's do this for 2016 because I not created my missions on availability set for 2019. If you see here, again, it's the same thing. Availability set and scaling is blank here. You're seeing it, right? So 2019, I don't have availability set. That means I cannot create load balancer for these missions on 2019.
Yes.
So this is empty. So I can't create. So I have to go with So that is, since that is the reason, so I will create DNN first. So I will come back to load balancer for 2016 then. So what is DNN? So how it works? So I already, I think we have already seen inside the DNS, right? So my cluster got created with both the DNS, with both the IPs inside my DNS manager. So this is how your SQL cluster would get created with IPs of both the both the nodes. So let's do it very quickly. Let me go. I think we already created this thing. Yeah, my setup is there. So how to create distributed network name? So there is one script in Microsoft site, DNN configure DNN. So this is the script that I have to make use of. I think it's the same for everyone. So here there are few things that you have to remember. Again, I will stress on those critical things. So what is DNN? First, I have to explain you that. So DNN is nothing but it is a kind of, it will make use of DNS server, and it will create the listener with the IPs of the nodes that are participating inside the cluster. So we'll come to know in a short moment. So just copy the script. Okay, I already copied it. So this script is from Microsoft website. I'm not doing something extra. Just copy it and run this. And it has 3 parameters. Because it has 3 parameters. One is availability group name, which you have to pass on. I think my availability group name is AG2K19, I guess. Oh goodness, this is external. That's the reason I'm afraid. It will not create here because it has not detected the Windows cluster. You got it? What is external? External means it's something outside the scope of Windows cluster. That's why you are not seeing the availability group here. Oh God. Let me delete the cluster and recreate it. Otherwise. If I delete it, I have to recreate it again because this will throw an error. Sorry guys, I don't know why it took external all of a sudden.
No issue.
Are you there? Because suddenly entire group is so silent, so I'm not sure what is happening.
Yes, yes.
Can you hear me?
No, we are here.
Okay, thank you, thank you.
Vamshi, because of IP address, it's not detecting the cluster.
Maybe, yeah, because I think I made a mistake, it seems, because at the time of creation, maybe I've given wrong entry. 10 dot, it should be 10 dot series. Let me check the IP. IP config, it's 10.9. Yeah, I'm the same series only. Okay.
The cluster name was not created with IP, right? So it's not singleton, right? Because of that reason.
No, that should not be the case. That should not be the case for sure. Okay, let's create with DNN. Doesn't matter what, because we are not dealing with clusters here, failover cluster. So let's go with traditional DNN. Names. Next. Test cluster. I think I have to do it on second node as well. See, it's straight away saying, yeah, now test cluster is registered, so it should work now. Anyways, I will just remove this and I will restart because it's a new cluster creation. Sometimes it will create a problem. I didn't encounter this. I'm seeing this for the first time. Maybe I messed up with something. Okay, so it got created. So as I'm 2019, so since I didn't create static IP with singleton, so it will be the same thing. Okay, let's destroy this. Okay, it's gone. So let me check here. Okay, cool. So let me go to configuration manager. Yeah, now okay, I think okay, now I understood. Can anyone let me know why I'm not able to figure it out? I mean, what went wrong? Why it is detected as external? Anyone?
I think it has configured before enabling singleton.
No. You know what? I made a mistake. So, so I created the cluster, but I have not enabled the always on.
Okay, enough
Yeah,
features.
yes. So I didn't click on that. So I forgot that. Sorry. Oh, this again came. Oh shit. Okay, gone. Okay, let's now refresh. Okay. Now let's see database status, what it is. Come on, man. Let's bring this online. I will create a new one. Something. Okay. Next, yeah, now it detected my Windows Server Failover cluster because last time I didn't do that, so that's the reason. Okay, AG 2019, whatever it is. So next, refresh. Yeah. Mm, 22. Sorry guys, I didn't expect this error, so I'm sorry.
No need of sorry, Amse. These are all expected.
Yeah, I also faced that actually similar things when we forgot to enable this one.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Okay, so now I got the things. So I'm not creating the listener now. So it's just availability group. Once it gets created, I will show you how to create DNN. It's very simple. So yeah, it got created, and let's go to cluster and see our roles. So if it is external, you will not see this component registered inside my cluster. So that's the problem. Yeah, so I don't have the listener now, so it is empty. Now you will see how to create DNN. So let's create the DNN. DNN is nothing but just get the script from Microsoft website, and you will have 3 parameters: the AG name, the DNS name, that is nothing but your listener name, I can say, and the port. This is very important, this port. So this port has to be unique. It cannot be our 1433. It cannot be our 5022. It has to be a free port. If you try to configure DNS with 1433 or 5022, again you will encounter issues. So when you are configuring DNN on real time, ensure that you have a free port, otherwise it will be a problem. And also one more thing, last but not least, I added that port. I thought of making use of 6789. So you have to add that port here as the exclusion inside your firewall. I mean, in real time, if you are dealing, ensure just like 5022 and 1433, like the SQL standard ports, you have to add the port that you are giving for the creation of DNN. I am using 6789. So I already added it to the exclusion list. I mean, it will not block. Otherwise, I will get blocked and you will face some issues. So just ensure that part. So the 3 things about DNN, again, 3 things I have to pass. First thing is availability group name. It's very straightforward. Whatever the name what you pass at the time of creation of AG, just pass that name. DNS name is nothing but your listener. That is your true listener, the actual listener, and the port. Ensure this port is not either 1433 or 5022. So it has to be something else. So I'm just running the script. Just pass the parameters. That's it. So what is my group name? AG 2019. AG 2019. DNS name, it's your wish. I will say listener DNN port 6789. That's it. So if you just run the script and pass those parameters, you will see the listener now.
Yeah. Vamsi, one question, a quick one. So the port that you gave 6789, now that the listener is created, when you try to connect from SSMS using listener name, do you have to give this listener name comma 6749? Is it that port?
Yes. That's the same port. So I will. Yeah, go ahead.
So if I have a named instance, in that case, I can give that the port number that I have used for the named instance, right, as the port number here for DNN.
Very good question. I have to try this scenario. That's lovely.
But I think the named instance, if we are creating the name instance with the different port or different port something, then we have one option in the SQL Server browser services. We need to enable the browser
that
services.
is there, but the problem is, Varun, so in few environments, they will not allow you to enable browser service because of the restrictions.
Yes, you're right. But in case if you are not allowing the browser services, then our IP plus port number will be not broadcast. Then in that case, we need to put port number after the IP.
I think, Akanksha, to answer your question, there is one solution. You can create an alias, okay, and we can make use of this port. Alias is the right answer, but there are 2 types of alias. One is at configuration manager level, and one is at DNS level. Again, so we can adopt either of this. I have written an article on my blog about this alias concept, but that is a good question. I will try to create that. I will try to mimic that and see how to deal with that scenario. But for the moment, since I am with 2019 default instance, so if you see here, this is important thing. So
Vamsi, this is Alok here. For the alias, actually, so I previously said that I worked on that listener concept, and DNS team actually mapped with that alias name. And so there we have the default instance, and also we have that actually name instance as well. So we have the 3 or 4 instance in one of that, some of the servers actually. So we check that actually even alias is also not working for the name instance. I don't know actually what is the reason behind that in the Windows end. And but when an alias is mapped in the DNS team, but even though we are not with the connecting with the listener name to the right node or whatever, always on configuration. So always on AG setup is done, but listener is not working.
I have to check that case.
There's this permission that you have to give in AD level now.
No, I think
allow
no
permission.
So guys, I have to wrap it off. So, but we can take this outside the case.
Sure.
Sure. So let me show you. So this is the concept again. I want to explain you guys. So I am going to my domain controller, and if you see here, my object, let me refresh. So this got created inside my domain controller, listener DNN, it's got created. And let me go to my DNS manager. This is what I want to stress again. So this is my listener. If you see listener DNN, and again, just like my cluster, it got registered with both the IPs of the nodes that are participating in the cluster. So how the DNN works, very simple, whether it is Windows cluster or SQL availability group listener, doesn't matter. It will take the IP addresses of those machines and it will create a DNS entry inside my DNS manager. So it can So how it works? So I am sitting on before going to experiment something. So let me just show you the basic again. So this is my listener. This is my SQL listener. If I go to the dependencies, sorry, I have to go to this availability group. And if you see dependency, automatically my DNN got added because in the script they have written like that to add that my listener name to the availability group. So that's the reason it got created. So first and foremost thing, how will you identify whether I'm using DNN or the traditional VNN, or I mean the traditional always on listener? How will you identify that? So that is the first question. Let me drop something here. I created AG 2019, this one. Yeah. Any queries? Yeah. So if you go here, it's very simple. How to identify whether it is DNN or VNN? It's straightforward. Just run this availability group listeners, and if you see this component, sorry, this column is distributed network name set to 1. That means I'm using DNN, and the DNN is little different. If you go here, this is my DNN. If you go to the properties, don't get shocked because there is no IP with this listener. How it works? Because this listener got created at the DNS level with the IP addresses of either node 1 or node 2. That's why you are seeing both the IP addresses inside my domain controller. So if you see listener DNN got registered with 0.5 and it got registered with 0.6, which is nothing but my IP addresses of my machines, node 1 and node 2. 0.5 is node 1 and 0.6 is node 2. So that is how it works. Don't get shocked again. I am saying you because in my office, we got the setup of DNN, and some senior DBA is more than 20 plus. It's not I'm blaming him. It's a new concept. That's why we don't know. Otherwise, he could have definitely answered this properly. He told to the network team, he went to the network team and he said the IP addresses is not there and someone has created the cluster improperly. That is not the case, guys. When you created the DNN concept, when you created the DNN listener, there will not be any IPs associated with it inside your properties of availability group listener properties. You will not see an IP address. So how will you identify whether it is DNN or VNN? Is nothing but run this command. Inside this, you will come to know whether it is set to 1 or 0. If it is 0, it is DNN. If it is 1, it is DNN. So I can create load balancer here also. I can use either, you can use either VNN or DNN. It's up to you. So I will show you that in the next, next case. So did you understand DNN now first? I want to know from you before going about VNN.
Yeah. Yes.
Is it clear?
But Vamsi, in the listener properties, you said the IPs will not be added.
Yes.
And so there's no need, absolutely no need to add the IPs?
No, absolutely no need, because it's already registered with DNS. That's why, because I didn't add the records inside DNS Manager, right? So it got added automatically. So yeah.
So when you do a NS lookup of the listener name, what is the IP you would get? Usually when we have a load balancer and when we take the static IP of that listener name, it would point to the IP address of the primary node.
You see the answer now?
Yeah, but considering this is a host A record that is created for both the IPs.
Yes.
How would the listener know which server to point it to, which node to point the listener to?
Wherever it is primary. So I will show you.
The ports, right?
Yeah, port is there, 6789 port. Okay, I am on domain controller machine, I guess. Yeah, I am on domain controller. Let's see if I am able to connect from, treat this as application server or development server for a moment. Listener DNN. So I'm not using any port over there.
Port number.
So as of now, it is pointing to node 2. I mean, SQL 2 is node 2. Let me see where it is actually. Refresh. Okay, this is running on node 1, right?
What about the dashboard?
Yeah, 1 second. So let me remove this from where I got this 2019. Okay, we created that external one, right? So that's the reason. Let me delete this, otherwise it will be confusing. Fresh. Everything is gone, right? Okay, this guy is still there. Forget about this. I don't want to waste time with that. So it says I am on 1 means node 1. SQL 1 is node 1. So, but if I connect from the outside machine, it says my primary is on node 2, right? Sorry.
Yes.
Okay, let me pass the port number. You see, if you don't pass the port number, it doesn't know where it is located actually. If you pass the port number, then it will come up with the correct node. So let me fail over and see. I will do failover from here only. I will open SQL CMD. What is that node name? I am on node 1, right? Or
SQL 12K19.
okay.
SQL
2 2K19. I am failing over to node 2.
SQL 12K19.
Yeah.
Failing over 2, that means SQL 2, I guess.
Yeah, 2 only. Alter availability group name AG 2019 failover. Go. Oh, command availability. I could have done it from
Yeah,
SSMS, but I just want to see how it behaves here from here.
LA.
Availability. Go. Yeah, and quickly we will run this. Exit. Use with port and see where it goes. It has to go to node 2 now. See, it went to node 2 as expected. Let me fire this without port and see. Sometimes it will work, but if you fail over, sometimes it is not working. So I always recommend you to pass the port number. Otherwise, it will create a bit of mess. And again, there are few things you have to remember. DNN is there from 2019 CU8 and 2017 some more than CU25. So it has its limitations. Okay, but there is one thing I want to show you. I will show it to you now. When you are the first question again, back to the questions. So since I created this on single subnet, should I use multi-subnet failover equal to true? When should I use multi-subnet failover? First of all, what is multi-subnet failover? When should I use it?
Multi-subnet, its net ID would be different for machines.
If machines are on the different
data centers. Different data centers.
Yeah, so the answers are, if you are on different subnets, then you have to use multi-subnet failover equal to true. Why I need that?
True.
Why I need that? Why should I use? What will be the problem if I don't use?
Connectivity. One subnet fails. One subnet fails.
Yes.
No, again, these are the things that I would like to I would love to hear from you. Come again. So that is wrong. Sorry. Any straightforward correct answer. I'm not expecting the answer what I have in my mind, but the answer what I'm expecting is something very relevant. So if someone asks you why I need multi-subnet failover, internally behind the scenes, you will have two IPs. One IP will be online and one IP will be offline. So when you don't write multi-subnet failover equal to true, like let me show you. I think I'm on. Yeah. So if you don't write this,
that is a concept of availability zone.
No. Forget about. Okay, let me switch back to on-prem.
I think okay. This concept is related to the DNS. When the application send the request to the first DNS, and DNS will give the IP. Okay, with the IP which we need to select. If we are using the multi-subnet equal to true, in that case, DNS will give both the IP and application will connect with the.
You're almost there, but just one thing is missing.
This should be there in an application connection string, right?
Yeah,
it's from DB only.
It should be at application layer. So my question is, why should I use that? it will work without multi-subnet failover equal true also. Your connection string will work. But why should I
It will
use?
take a lot of time to resolve the secondary IP. That's the reason we will keep it.
Yes, that's true. Gatla Arvind. So you got it right. So what happens is that, so if you see here, my listener name, here it is showing up with two IPs, but usually in traditional on-prem, I'm talking about on-prem, forget about Azure virtual machines. So if you create here, it will be registered with two IPs, right? One will be with offline, one will be online. So when you are pointing, when you're using the listener, the connections will go to my DNS in a serial fashion. And first it will go, it will check whether it is online or offline, and it will fetch that IP. When you use multi-subnet failover equal to true, my connections will go in parallel. Parallel means at the same time, it will go and will just bring the online IP. So that is the difference. Serial and parallel. Use that terms when you are representing yourself in interviews. When someone asks you multi-subnet failover equal to true, say that when you don't use, the connection mechanism will be serial. When we use, the connection mechanism will be parallel. Just use that two terms. That's enough.
And Vamshi, I just want to add one point. Here we can set like in multi-subnet, we can set like register all service provider IPs and host record TTL setting so that the failover mechanism may be fast also.
Yes,
with
that
this
is
from the
also there.
PowerShell.
Again, so if doesn't work, usually application will get timed out. Sometimes when you are dealing with scenarios where you will get timeouts, in that case you have to use register all providers. That is one setting inside my registry editor that I need to tweak. Provided if I get timeouts, I need to tweak those parameters. So if you use multi-subnet failover equal to true, there is no need. But still, if you are getting timed out despite of using multi-subnet failover, then you have to tweak those parameters, register all providers, and there is one more, as Arvind said.
It's depend on the application. Some of the application is not supporting the multi-subnet equal to true.
Yeah. If it doesn't support, then there is no option. You have to deal with registry editor only. Yeah.
Yeah.
So now back to the point. So since I am on single subnet, and if I am using DNN, I will recommend you to use multi-sub. Not me. Microsoft says to go with multi-subnet failover, because again here it has to fetch two IPs. Because usually traditional listener will have single IP, right? It won't have multiple IPs. But here in DNN, since we have two IPs, despite of sitting in single subnet, Microsoft suggests you to make use of multi-subnet failover equal to true when you are connecting to DNN. So how can I show you? So it's just like when you want to show demos, or if you are working in real time, just add this -m in the command prompt, or otherwise you can add that in SSMS also, multi-subnet failover equal to true, so that it will work as expected. So is it okay? Are we on right page? Are we lost somewhere? I don't know.
No, we are good.
So I didn't check the chat part at all. So any questions? Can you repeat the question? Load balancer? No. Okay. Yeah, this is for virtual. Sorry, load balancer. So I will show you the next scenario. Okay. Yeah. Any questions about DNN? It's very simple. Just give the AG name, DNN name, and the port number. Ensure that port number is not the same of your SQL or your endpoint port number. So ensure those are different. And even though you are on single subnet, you have to use multi-subnet failover equal to true when it comes to DNN. That is one more point you have to remember. These are the critical things. That's it. So, and now I didn't create my load balancer, but still I am able to connect from my domain controller, right? I just failed it over. It is working fine. So no issues. So without load balancer, I can work on my, listeners without any problem. I mean, the listener get failover from one node to another node, even I am able to connect without any issues. So you got that concept, right? Or should I repeat?
Got it. Thank you so much.
So first scenario, we just debug the myth. Myth is like you have to need load balancer all the time on the earth. No, we don't need load balancers from I can say 2017 CU25, 2019 CU8, because those supports the DNN. Let me show you from where it is. Where is that? Yeah. So 2019 CU8, 2017 CU25, and SQL Server 2016 SP3. It will support, and you should be on Windows 2016 and later. Okay, so in that case, you don't need to configure load balancer. Forget about load balancer. You can work happily with DNN. So they have written very clearly the routing behavior when you use DNN differs from VNN because don't use the port 1433. It is the port will get conflicted and you will face some issues. So that's it. Very simple. DNN configuration is very straightforward, very simple. No need for load balancer. And as a DBA going forward, if you are on single subnet, recommend to your customers saying that we can go ahead with DNN. But don't get surprised if you go to listener and if you see, oh, my listener is not having any IPs. No, it won't have IPs because it works with the concept of DNS and it will have all the IPs of the nodes that are replicas that are participating in availability group or cluster. So that is the concept you have to remember when you are dealing with DNNs. I think it is clear for you. So let me create VNN, which is load balancer. So I will show you that. Is it okay? Or I would like to take a small break, maybe 5 minutes.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, okay.
Just 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Or is it boring?
No,
No, it's very interesting. Real-time scenarios.
Okay, okay. Thank you. I'll just come back in 5 minutes.
Hello, everyone.
Any questions, guys? I mean, it's still the break time, but still, if anyone have any questions, please feel free to talk.
Actually, I'm quite new.
Yes. Yeah.
Sorry.
Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead. Someone.
If there's nobody, I'll go ahead with it. But in case anybody wants to ask a question, please go ahead. Okay, I'll take this chance then. Vamsi,
yeah.
Vamsi, we were going through that cluster creation, and at the time of the cluster creation in the command, you gave that option where you have DNS and then Active Directory and DNS.
Yeah, yeah.
That option. What was the network type name? Was it? Network
management.
type?
Here are the commands. So if you see management point network type.
Correct. No, not.
Okay, administrative
access point.
Administrative access point. You can create it at DNS level.
Correct.
And you can create it at both levels, DNS and AD.
Yeah.
And only AD. But
now,
yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, now if I by default it's always Active Directory and DNS, right?
Yes.
By default, if I don't give it. Now,
yes.
if I give DNS, in that case, I'll also have to pre-stage my cluster name,
not required,
cluster
not
object
required, not
in the
required.
AD?
No, because you are
Then
not
how?
creating in AD. Well, come again. So I will explain you. If you are creating DNN cluster, I mean Windows DNN cluster, so there is no need for you to register the object, right? And so cluster will work because it has to get created only at DNS level, not at AD level. We can. I think I'll showcase you once I'm done with this. So maybe in this week, just ping me. I will show you up. But this is a very good question. Okay. Yeah, I understood your question.
So by what I understand, and because I had to do it previously, once we actually used this administrative access point DNS, and that was in Windows 2016. And when I was trying to create the cluster, it did not get created. It was not coming up. Cluster was not coming up because it was not registered in AD.
Okay.
Right. So usually what happens is it automatically gets created with Active Directory and DNS, and it automatically gets created in AD level as well and comes
usually we will not, touch base these things like administrative active point, access point. We will just go ahead with both the levels, AD and DNS. But if you want only at DNS level, we can do. But I want you to come in to interact with me personally so that I can show you up.
Yeah.
I can do it. We can do it.
Sure.
Definitely, I will try to introduce errors also, because that's how we learn, right? So I will show you up. No problem.
Correct. Yeah. Thank you.
Sorry, I'm having my apple, so please don't mind. It is 11 here. I hope you guys had lunch. I didn't ask that question at all.
Oh, I did not.
No, we will have it later.
Sorry for the odd timing, 1:30, because if my baby, she gets up, I can't do all these things. So that's why I went ahead with 9 o'clock. So this is the reason. So if you want, I can share this document with you all. I mean, why? I mean, to make use of the proper terms. This is the reason. Okay, let's move on and let's create the load balancer. So I understood reason. So we just need to drop it. So, oh shit. Configuration manager, remove.
Are we creating any other availability group, right?
Yeah, I have to. Okay. Hurry, Alok. I'll finish off this.
Okay.
Just 2 minutes.
Yes, sure.
Okay. So shall I start?
Yes.
Anyway, session is being recorded, so
Yes.
even if someone miss, I will share that. Okay, so I will now try to create this. Yeah, now I got, because I didn't restart my SQL, that's the reason. So let me quickly restart, sorry, create. AG 2016 test, next, node 2. Failover, next. Database is already there, yeah. Join. So I'm done. Now it's time for load balancer. I think people are there, right? Or should I wait?
Yeah.
Okay, so I didn't create the load balancer. I am on 2016. So again, as I said, for load balancer creation, I need my missions either in availability zone or availability set. Without that, I cannot create. I have my 2016 missions as part of availability zones. So node 1 mission is in zone 1, and I think node 2 is in zone 2, if I'm not wrong. Yeah. So it is there. So it has to be there for my availability, sorry, for the configuration of load balancer. Otherwise, you can't. That is one thing you have to remember. And again, at the time of creation of load balancer, you will get few questions in your mind. This is very important. I think for the beginners and who are not created, it will be somewhat difficult, but I'll try to make you understand. Load balancer 2016, and some questions for you guys, for the people who already created. I think I'm 2016. What is the series? What I have? Forward the IPs.
25 series.
Yeah, just double check. IP config. Yeah, 25. So I can make 10. Add friend end. This is the IP what I am giving here will be the always on listener IP for me when I need to connect. So this IP will float across the replicas. So let me give some random name. Sure, front end
Client
IP.
will connect to this IP only, right?
Yes, client will connect to this IP. Just like DNN listener, what I have given. DNN listener is the name what I have given, right? So in the similar way, this I cannot give the name here, but the IP what I am giving will be the IP that will be made use of for connecting for the client. I mean for the client. So static 10.25.0. I'll give 10. Add. So backend pools. And there is one change. Backend pool 1 I will give. There is one change what I noticed when it comes to backend pool configuration. Okay, so I will show you that change. I need to go back. So here I selected standard, right? When I selected standard, you are seeing these options. Front end IP, and okay, I'll delete or I'll click on this. You are seeing one extra option, availability zone, right? Just remember that. And if I don't make use of my standard load balancer, and if I go with basic and see what happens, front end, you will not see that option of availability zone. Why? Because a basic load balancer is not good enough to handle the missions that were created across the availability zones. So if your missions are part of availability zones, you have to use standard load balancer. So I'm explaining you the difference between the basic load balancer and the standard load balancer. Since my missions, they are part of availability zones, I have to use standard load balancer. I cannot use basic. If your missions are part of availability set instead of load balancer, then you can make use of basic. It is good enough. So that is the difference between basic and standard. So standard comes into picture when your missions are part of load balance, availability zones, whereas basic, it's part of availability sets. So my missions are part of zones, so I have to use standard. So that is the difference. So if someone asks you what is the difference between standard and basic load balancer, so you can answer them. Basic is meant for availability sets, standard is meant for availability zones. Okay, so I want to just highlight that point. So it's okay. Like I can give it again. Subnet 10.25.0.10 some IP. I'm not, I can go with no zone also, but I'm just leaving with defaults. There's nothing unusual there. Okay, and backend pool. Here I need to add the missions. Backend 1, add node 1 and node 2. These are all my missions that are part of 2016 cluster. So I have to add those missions. Add. Next. Here comes the main part. So now the question for you guys, I think few of them have worked on this and few of them are not. So who worked on this? Can you answer me why I need backend port here? What is port and what is backend port?
Port is, I think it's a port that is given to the listener earlier, and backend port is the port of the operational machine.
Sorry, unfortunately, no.
Maybe once I think multi-subnet, whether how it is choosing the on an IP in the same.
No, this is not multi-subnet. This is only single subnet. So I don't have the concept of multi-subnet. I am still on single subnet. I thought of doing multi-subnet also, but the way we progress today, I think it's not possible. But let's see. So okay, guys. So I will tell you. So there is no need for backend port. Frankly speaking, there is no need for backend port since we are working with floating IPs, we have to enable this floating IP. See, I told you previously what is floating IP. Floating IP is the one that floats from node 1 to node 2 or node 2 to node 3, depends upon where my primary replica resides. So you have to enable floating IP for your load balancer to work. That is nothing but for your listener to work. For the clients, I mean, if the clients want to connect, this has to be enabled. So if that is the case, backend port is not required, but still they have mentioned it as asterisk, but it is not required. I mean, we have to give the same port number of SQL. Okay, so let me give you some name, load balancer. It's okay. IPv4. So front end IP address I already given. This is my always on listener IP. The same IP, it will get populated. And backend pool I already created. So those two missions are now part of front end pool and backend pool. And this is the load balancer name. I have to make use of TCP. I cannot use UDP. I have to have my packets safe. So I have to use TCP. Backend port is the same port of SQL. And here I have to give my health probe. So again, this is a kind of tricky interview question. If someone asks you, I mean, these are the kind of questions that everyone should be aware of. Like if you answer these questions, you are a superstar for sure. I can say, what is interval and what is this unhealthy threshold? Can anyone answer this?
Interval is in the backend, listener keeps on checking the machines which are available.
Okay.
And it keeps on checking that after every 5 seconds. That is the interval.
Okay, what is the problem with load balancer? Like I have interval of 5 and unhealthy threshold 2. What does it mean?
After 2 seconds, actually, the threshold will be unhealthy.
Means like every interval,
Every
no
5 second,
After
no
5 second
two
interval,
consecutive
like
acknowledgements.
if it's unable to respond 2 times, then it will do the failover, I think.
Correct.
Yeah, that is true. But if you see the interval is 5, right? 5 seconds. And we need at least 2 unhealthy threshold. That means I'm getting delayed by 10 seconds. So 10 seconds delay is there for the load balancer to detect if something goes wrong at this equivalent or at the cluster level. So that is the problem with load balancer. It's not only difficult to create load balancer, and the one more headache with load balancer is at least I need 10 seconds for my load balancer to figure out what went wrong inside my cluster. That is not the
You
case
mean
with
to say,
DNN. Yeah.
Vamsi, you mean to say it is like looks alive, keeps alive, lock in cluster mechanism?
Yes, kind of. But here the threshold interval is 2. I think I cannot make it 1, I guess. Maybe, yeah, it cannot be because I have to use 2. 2 is the bare minimum. That means a load balancer has to wait at least 10 seconds to figure out what went wrong. So do you think 10 seconds is ideal for a critical environment? You got my point, right?
No.
Yeah, 10 seconds is a bigger number.
Too high number. Yeah.
So the people have identified this. I mean, the Microsoft people have identified this problem, and so they came up with DNN for single subnet issues. So that is one more headache. So if you add this point to your mind, or if you are projecting this in interview, tell them that what is the main problem with load balancer? Load balancer has to wait at least bare minimum of 10 seconds to identify what went wrong inside the cluster. So it will take 10 seconds to identify or to get failed over if something goes wrong. So that is one more headache with load balancer.
Vamshi, I have one question. Said
Yeah.
Arvind.
Yeah.
Yeah, this load balancer is related something to quorum because for failover, quorum is also required, na?
No.
So,
Quorum is required. Quorum will participate in cluster, but this
not in load balancer.
Not in load balancer.
In load.
Yeah.
Not okay. Fine.
I have to use TCP. Here we have to use some ephemeral port. Usually people will give this number. I added this number to that exclusion list. That's why I'm giving this number. You can give any number, but it has to be free port and it has to be more than 50,000, I guess. There is some interval. Let me add. How to click this? Oh God. Okay, so you now understood the problem of load balancer. It has to wait at least 10 seconds if something goes wrong. Just keep that in mind. And I have to enable this floating point IP. If I don't, then it will not work. These are the two things that I want to highlight. Everyone has explained about load balancer in the past. If you come across the videos, they will say you have to enable floating IP, but no one has explained clearly why I need floating IP. Because it's because of the MAC address inability. Like the same MAC address will be there across all the virtual machines. So that's why I need this floating IP to be enabled. And this will safeguard if something goes wrong. I mean, if it gets failed over. Okay, and then next outbound rule. I don't need to create any outbound rules. And review and then create. Many of my friends are there, but I've not seen they're talking at all. I don't know. Whether understanding or if it is difficult or out of the scope. I don't know.
You are saying it very easily, man. I'm able to understand.
Okay. Looks like I'm just talking to 4 or 5 people. Okay.
Ramsey, it is everyone understands whatever you are saying. Don't worry about your friends.
Yeah, no. See,
They must be aware of all these things and they do not have any questions, but we are new to this.
Yeah, I thought someone will ask some questions. I mean, especially from my friends, but they didn't open their mouth at all. I don't know if they are understanding or if they don't want to talk. I don't know what is the reason.
I don't know.
Once we do the practicals, we come to know what is what. I think I can get an idea.
Your friends will be like, अब सारा काम वामसी से करवाना है. Now that they know you know everything, they're like, he is going to do everything for us.
Okay, so I just created the load balancer. Now we need to enable that script.
Looks like Akanksha is working in a good environment.
Yeah,
and,
Akanksha, where you are working?
I work for Accenture.
Oh, great.
I would like to join your project.
I think Vamshi,
Yeah.
Akanksha is working on end-to-end project, I think so, from front end to back end.
I actually work for cloud migrations.
Oh, great.
From on-prem to Azure, yeah, for SQL Server.
So you give me, Akanksha, you give us a chance to work on there, because I am saying to my manager since 2 years, that actually please give me a chance to work on that cloud migration project or something like that. But still they are searching on, they are saying that okay, wait for man, wait, we'll give you a chance.
Oh, you should actually join Accenture. Yeah, I mean, you have good opportunities here. They are looking for SQL DBAs, and people like you with good experiences can definitely join the team.
Now, Vamsi, yesterday I told you now one of the project actually comes for the MongoDB, and no person is there to hand over that took over the kitty. So that's why actually people who have some actually they are pushing into that actually hand over to KT or something like that for Mongo.
Okay.
Don't know how to handle. Because working on a project, it's a different thing, or taking a KT, it's a big matter, because we have to know at least a lot of the things.
Yeah. So I am into Oracle, but
okay.
I don't know much, like NoSQL. I don't know much about it. Sorry for that. So yeah, we have to run this script just like DNN. We have to create this script for the load balancer to work. Otherwise, it won't work. So if you see here, I don't have. Oh, sorry, something is ringing. Just a second, guys. Some kind of fire alarm.
Akanksha, since how long have you been working as a DBA?
So it's been 8 years for me now.
Okay. As a SQL DBA, right? For all 8
years? Yes. Previously, I worked for 1.5 years as an Oracle DBA, and then I moved to SQL. Since then, I've been with SQL.
Actually, I have almost 7 years of experience as a DBA. I started as a SQL Server DBA, but after 3 years, I got a chance to work on Postgres, MySQL, MongoDB.
Oh wow! Okay.
And all these
Oh,
four
great.
environments. So due to this reason, I do not have any high availability concept in my organization, but I'm quite good at other things as well now.
Well, it's a good thing, you know. I totally believe that you can't just stick with one skill and live for long. So even here, I have been working on Postgres, MySQL, Oracle, SQL Server. So
Sorry, guys.
that's a good thing for you. Okay.
Something happened inside the apartment. I don't know. It is constantly ringing. There is nothing wrong from my end, but looks like a false alarm. It's still ringing, but it's okay. Like, it's not disturbing for you, right? Or you are hearing the sound?
No.
Okay. I don't know what went wrong there. Yeah, so I have to pass 4 parameters here. Just like DNN, I have to pass 4 parameters. First is the cluster network name. So I have to pass that network name. How will you identify that network name? Is nothing but go here to the networks. And I have a question for you guys. Usually in on-premises, you will create multiple networks, right? Multiple network adapters. So we are not dealing with that in Azure, I think. So do you know why?
Sorry, could you repeat your
question? Okay, the question is like in on-premises, so you'll have 3 or 4 network adapters. So one is for physical traffic, and second one for if you are using any third-party backup tools, you'll have that backup NIC only for backups, and one for heartbeat, and one for something else like to route the traffic. So you'll have multiple adapters. Yeah.
Here we have VNet. Might be because of this. In private IP address, all those will be there.
So what happens is that internally in Azure, we have physical redundancy for this cluster. I mean, for this network. So you don't need to worry about adding multiple adapters. So Microsoft is taking care of that. So even if you get a warning message when you are doing cluster validation, you can ignore it safely. So there is no harm, even if you have only one cluster network. So the name what we have to give is the same name of what we are seeing inside the networks. So it is written as cluster network 1. So I'm giving the same name, and I have to give the IP resource name. So which I have to create now. So I'm going here and I have to create resource for the listener. So I'm giving it as AG listener. AG listener. So it will be created with DHCP. So it will be down. This guy will be down. So I have to give a static IP for this. I'll give some 14. Finally, it went off. It was very horrible for me. I was not able to hear.
That's good. It's off now.
Yeah. So you have to give this 1 second. So let me bring it online. Oh, hold on. What IP I have given there is 10, right? Yeah. I think in front end I have given 10.
Yeah.
So I have to use the same IP. Where is that? Let me double check. Load balancer front end. I think I have given 10. Yeah, I made a mistake. Sorry. So I cannot give.
The same IP
yes,
here?
same IP. Because this is the listener IP. So if you use something else, it won't work again.
Okay.
Whatever the IP, what you present inside the front end IP, you have to give the same IP.
Okay.
Okay, it's back online. So here the second parameter for the PowerShell script is IP resource name. That is nothing but this one, this name, IP address name. So it is IP address 25.0.0. So I have to pass the same name here. It's already there, so it's okay. IP I'm using 10, so it's fine. And as I said, the probe port at the time of creation of probes, we have given one port 549s. So I have to use the same port there. These are the two important things, guys. So front end IP, whatever the IP what you present, it will be the same IP that you have to pass for this as a parameter for this script. And also at the time of creation of this listener, you have to give the same IP. If you give something else, it won't work. So those are the two critical things, and I think we are good to go. Yeah.
No, just one thing I need to know. When you are creating the load balancer, you just created the load balancer with the IP of 10, right?
Yes.
So then you are giving that IP of 10 on the listener itself. So load balancer will connect to the listener name, or
yes, load balancer is, as I said previously, load balancer will help you to redirect your listener when it gets failed over from one node to another node. So that is the concept of floating.
Yes.
So it's the responsibility of the load balancer to float your always on listener IP when it gets failed over from one node to another node, because it cannot identify the MAC address of the other machine when it gets failed over. So that is the main point of load balancer.
Okay, understood. Actually, when with the application load balancer, we created that one. So we gave that actually the application node name or node IP. We use that. So similar thing actually here, its listener is our application. We can consider and listener IP. Yeah. Okay, got it.
That is the Okay, let me add this. Okay, this
If
is added.
suppose we have multi-subnet, we need two listener IPs. I mean to say, like
no, you don't need that. You don't need just hold on for multi-listener, multi-subnet. I'll explain you. So I have to add this as a dependency, otherwise it won't work. Why this again? It's annoying for me. Where to move this? Yeah. Properties. We have to add here. Unlike DNN, where they have added inside the script. Here in this script, what I got, they didn't add. So it is up to us to add the listener name as a dependency for availability group. Otherwise, it won't work. So we have to add this. Okay, and then just make it offline and bring it online just to be on a safer side. Okay, so now my listener is in place and I configured the load balancer. So let me connect from my DC machine. What is the name I have given? AG listener, right? Yeah. Okay, let's see whether the objects got created. AG listener got created, yes. And how about DNS? Yeah, so here if you see the difference, now you will understand. AG listener is being recorded with single IP, whereas when it comes to 2019, I made use of DNN. There for listener, I think I named it as DNN listener. It has come up with two IPs, the node IP of node 1 and the IP of node 2 also. But that is not the case here. We'll have only single IP in our DNS manager. So that is one more difference with load balancer. SQL CMD -s AG listener. If it doesn't work, I have to make use of 1 second. Did I made any mistake? SQL CMD. What is the name? AG listener. Yeah, AG listener.
AG listener.
Listener. Okay, let's see. It will fail for sure.
On your SQL server, you still have to add the IP, now I'm saying.
Listener
properties.
I forgot to add port number. It will come now.
Port number and
yeah.
the IP. IP would come probably.
IP will come naturally. It comes automatically.
Yeah. Port, so yeah, we need to add the port only.
Port only, yeah. Port is missing.
Support, yeah. Yeah.
So 1433.
Define port.
1433, the default port, yeah. So let me try again. It's a default port. AG listener. I think there is something I'm missing for sure.
Yes, but
did you run port command, Vamsi?
I ran this PowerShell script, right?
Did you restart the IP in the cluster? You did not bring down the IP and bring it up back again, right?
I think so. Yeah.
He did that.
He just did for the listener name, not for the IP. I remember.
Yes. What you told is right. I didn't restart this guy. Okay, let me make it offline. Okay, is there anything else? I added it as a dependency. It's there. Okay.
Do we have to restart the SQL Server service?
No, not required.
No.
It should work. Let's see now. Yeah. I didn't restart the listener. Sorry, that IP. What you told is true, Akanksha. Node 1. Yeah. Let's fail over to node 2 and see. What is that name? Mission name?
AG.
I'll see from here. Node 2. Okay. Admin. Ramesh Babu Garu. Are you there? Oh shit. Because he's the one who shared this Zoom credentials. So I just wanted to check if he's there. Group name.
LSN,
AG2K16. Okay. AG2K16 failover. And if you see here, if I connect, it won't connect. See, as I said, it will take that time of 10 seconds.
10 seconds.
That is there. That is a problem. So usually this won't happen in real time, but if you quickly jump on, if you try to connect, it won't work. Let me show you. I mean, you're seeing it literally, but after 10 seconds, it will work. So let it get failed, or I'll cancel. If I connect now, it will connect. So that is the problem with load balancer, that 10 seconds time, that threshold, what they have given when at the time of health probes creation. So that is a problem. So now you know the DNN, now you know the VNN. I mean, VNN is nothing but the load balancer. So we are able to connect from the domain controller to my node 1 or node 2. So on 2016, I created load balancer, and on 2019, I created DNN. That doesn't mean that you cannot create VNN on 2019. You can create, both can be there, both can sit together, both will work, but it is up to you to create whatever that is recommended. So now again, I'm back to square one. The concept of single subnet, why I need load balancer, because it cannot identify the machine name, so I need load balancer. Why I need DNN, same thing, it has to fail over from node 1 to node 2. That's why we will see 2 records inside my DNS manager. Okay, so I think I concluded the concept of single subnet. So it is up to multi-subnet now. So any questions now, just let me know.
So
most
here,
of the companies will use DNN or VNN.
So going forward, I think companies, if they want to go with the latest versions, definitely I would recommend DNN. And provided if you are working with, say, for example, replication part, if replication is there, then I don't know if replication works or not. That is one thing I need to test. And one more very, very, very important thing. If you are trying to configure distributed availability groups, then DNN will not work. Again, this is very, very, very important. If you are dealing with distributed availability groups, the DNN will not work. You have to go with load balancer.
Okay.
That is one more
here
thing.
I have small doubt, Vamsi.
Yeah.
When this scenario, we created the DNN always on actually, so group we created use by a DNN, right?
Yes.
So the both IP is reflecting. So now the load balancer is pointing to our listener IP. So which IP can you go to that screen actually? So the DNN and two IPs it's showing. Yeah.
So
right.
if you
This,
see here, I
yeah.
am on 2016 where I am just, okay, refresh. Let me refresh. So I have listener with only single IP. This is the IP what I have
Right.
given when I configure load balancer, right?
Yes. Yes.
Whereas 2019, if I go, okay, this is not the DC. This DC. This one is the DC. Yeah, if you see here, listener is registered with node 1 and node 2.
Node 2.
Yeah. So that is the difference. So DNN will register all the nodes. If there are 8 nodes, it will register with 8 nodes, 4 nodes, 4 nodes, whatever it is, the count. So it has to register with all
Then
nodes.
if we are configuring load balancing, then we cannot do the DNN and set up in the always on.
We can do. So those are two things. Like if you want VNN and DNN, we can do it. It's not a problem. Okay. So if you want, I can show you in, it's just a matter of seconds. So okay, I will show you since you asked. We have the load balancer here, right? For 2016.
Yes.
So let me create the DNN. So I will show you. So DNN script is ready. So since I am on 2017 CU 29, I can now. Let me create. I'll show you both. What is that node name? Sorry, availability group name, AG2K16.
AG2K16.
DNS, I will give something. DNN listener 2K16. Port 6789. Okay, now you will see both DNN and VNN together inside my cluster. See, now this is distributed network name. I mean server name. This is DNN, and this is my traditional VNN. Both are sitting together, and I can connect with either of them. But before that, I just want to see if I added that exclusion inside my firewall. 6789, right? 6789. Yeah, it is there. So Let me connect. So I'm going to my domain controller, and let me connect with DNN. What is the name I've given? So if you see again, DNN will register with both the IPs. See, 10 is there. And again, I got the 5 and 6 along with me. Along with listener, sorry, not along with me. DNN, listener, LSNR 2K16. Sorry, I should have given the small name. That's it. You are able to connect. So you can connect either with VNN or DNN. It's your choice.
Okay.
I can fail over. It will work. No problem. So if you want, I can fail it over. To fail over, I have to give the node name. So it is on node 1, right? So node 2. I'm still wonder why my friends are not even opening their mouth. Alter availability group name AG2K16 failover. Go. Oh, it's already on node 2.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
Then we can do it on node 1. So VNN and DNN both we can work on that load balancer.
Yes. So as I said, this is it will cheat you. See, when I run this DNN without port number, it is showing me as node 1. That is cheating us. But we have, once you pass the port number, it will work.
Can we use GUI here in failover?
Yeah, we can use. So I'm just, since I don't want to again go to another mission, I'm just trying it from here. Instead of switching from one mission to another mission, I just wanted to complete this from here itself.
You type that alter availability group command on the GUI.
It will work. Alter availability group name failover.
On the primary.
So Bamsi, I think for the DNN, like load balancer is not needed. It's not needed, no? I think in the
not needed
general scenario.
Not needed.
Not needed.
So again, the conclusion is the most important thing, guys. If you don't understand the conclusion, whatever the effort what I have put, it's of no use. Conclusion is, if you are on same subnet and if you want to fail over from one node to another node, you have to use either load balancer or distributed network name. Okay, so DNN will work from 2017 something CU25 or some series is there. So you have to remember that point. And DNN will not work when you try to configure distributed availability groups. It won't work. That is second thing. Going forward, there is no need for load balancer. You can use of DNN if you are on single subnet. So these are the 3 points that I want to highlight.
In 2K17 or SQL Server 2017, we have that CU25, I guess. DNN starts from.
Yeah, let me check that. Yeah, this is
in multi subnet. We do not have DNN.
Now I'm coming to multi subnet. So guys, single subnet is over. So if you are comfortable, if you are okay, I will just show you multi subnet quickly.
Vamshi, if you don't mind, as you know now, if is there any diagrammatical that is available in Google for single subnet or multi subnet?
No, unfortunately, no.
That will help us.
This is the only blog. This is the official blog. So these are the only articles what they have written. And the next topic, what I am trying to show you, it's not even there on Microsoft. So I just tried myself a lot.
Thank
you. As I said, I know that I took 500, but okay, I will show you that also. Let me show you.
No.
No, it's
Vamshi, I'm sorry. Actually, just for better understanding, it's okay.
Yeah, let me show you. For this, I just registered myself on 9th of April with pay as you go, and see, I'm with euros. So I think the forecast, I don't know, I will get the bill. So it's roughly around 90 euros now. So that is my problem. Otherwise, I could have done this for free.
No issue. So in that, for this session, we learned that actually so many things. Definitely going forward, you will take another session for another topic.
Yeah, sure. Because this 500 is equal to a biryani in Hyderabad.
Yes.
So...
Good. Right.
No matter you are going to market with that 500, no matter, actually it will finish within a second. So you know that vegetable oil's price also in India.
And you are always asking us to join a free session, we won't join.
So now the final conclusion, guys, this topic multi-subnet, which I'm going to tell you, believe me, again I'm saying, many people even in Microsoft, they don't know how it works. This is a very new topic. It has been introduced in last year in November. So many of us they don't even know, not just Microsoft people, outside people, they don't know. So I'm going to deal with this, so please pay attention. So it will take 20 minutes from now, but this is going to be very important. And if you learn this,
we are doing the,
yeah,
so yeah, we're doing it now.
yes.
Yes, yes.
See, it is going to be a 9-hour session.
See, in the past I was a trainer, but after getting married I stopped training and I was just focusing on family. But if I move back to the original avatar, so I can sit for long hours. It doesn't matter for me. I can continue for hours, and I have a lot of patience when it comes to handling these type of scenarios. So
no, but can we pick this multi-subnet?
yeah,
maybe
that's why next
in the
week.
next.
Yes, that's why. So I just want to show you how it works, and I will just it's very simple. So I won't take much time, but very
Just
important
1
point.
minute.
Yeah.
But you never gave training in Aeon, right?
Sorry?
But you never gave training in Aeon in free.
Yeah, that's true. What I'm saying, I just forgot. Yeah, multi-subnet. So guys, now you understood why I need load balancer and why you need DNN, right? Without that, my listener will not fail over. I mean, listener will not be able to connect to my listener. So the clients will not be able to connect to my listener either with load balancer or DNN. One should be there. But when it comes to multi-subnet, you don't need either of them. Keep in mind. When it comes to multi-subnet, you don't need load balancer. You don't need DNN. You don't need either of them. So how it works? That is the question what you should get, right? When you don't have load balancer, when you don't have DNN, so when the failure happens, how come the virtual machines will identify the new replica as the the new failure replica as the new primary? How will it identify that? What is the mechanism? How it works? So multi-subnet doesn't need either of them. So how it is working? So that is the most important and the most, the critical part that I want to discuss next week probably. So I think it's already close to 3 hours now. So I will close this off. But in the next session, you will come to know in multi-subnet, you don't need either of them. So how it works? That is something interesting, right?
Right.
So now,
Okay. Also, next week we will cover clustering with storage space direct also, right?
see, with the kind of concepts what I am showing, I can maybe in another session I can show you. But multi-subnet is something that I want to show you. Like this topic of multi-subnet has not been explored by many people, so it might take time for you to digest as well as for me to show. So I will cover multi-subnet within the same region and across the regions. Both are there. I will cover both of them. It will be very interesting. And there is one more thing. So when we are dealing with across the regions, I will create one more domain controller. That means that domain controller is like acting as a standby replica for my primary domain controller. So there will be two DCs. It is not just one DC. So I want to show you that as well.
Okay.
So whatever the objects that gets created in my primary domain controller, the same objects would get created on my secondary domain controller. So if something happens to my primary domain controller, my secondary DC will take care of that. So it's like providing high availability for DC. So I need that, because imagine you have created a high availability for SQL, but you don't have high availability for domain controller. So you lost the, the entire intention is lost, right? So if there is no DC, how come my SQL missions will work, right? So I want to show you, I will switch off my DC and I will show you my secondary DC acting as the primary and how it works. So that is also one more scenario that I want to cover up.
Yeah, Vamshi, for creating in without load balancer, how could we connect it? Why? Because in different data centers, we have to connect it, right? If,
That is
one
that is the that is the why Bahubali. Sorry, why Katappa killed Bahubali? No one knows, right? So in a similar way, there is no DNN, there is no VNN, but still my listener will work. So that is what you should know. If anyone knows this answer, I'm good enough. You can ping me inside my WhatsApp. You can search the entire internet. Open, what can I say? Open question or
open challenge.
Challenge.
Open
Yeah,
challenge.
challenge. Yeah, that's I forgot the name. Open challenge to all. How come it will work when there is no VNN or no DNN? Okay, so I'm wrapping it off, guys. So any questions now, please feel free to ask. No problem. So if you
next session also will be the same link or a different link also?
Same link, mostly same link. There's no point of changing.
Maybe the VM which we create now, we'll choose availability set and availability zone. Maybe because of full tolerant likewise.
No.
Backend.
No.
Okay.
This question I asked at the beginning, I was not able to understand how it was working when there is no VNN DNN. So was not able to find answer for myself. But later, after digging, I came to know what is the reason behind that. But interestingly, that reason is not there on internet. But somehow, with the help of Wireshark, I understood how it works. So I think I've shown you. I installed Wireshark on machines. So
your mind is more spacious than Google.
What is that?
What does this Wireshark do, Vamsi?
It will trace the packets. I think I installed it on 2016.
Network. It is used for network tracing.
Network tracing.
Does it also work with VPNs?
Yeah, I think so. I didn't test much with Wireshark.
Maybe Cloud Witness.
No, not
the. No, problems.
No, so this is the Wireshark. So it traces the packets from one node to another node. You will see. I think most of you are aware of TDS, right? Tabular Data Stream Packets, TDS.
Yeah.
Yes.
So all this you will come to know here. It will help you to identify TDS packets, TCP packets, everything I can figure out from this Wireshark. Okay, so I think I covered single subnet everything. Yeah.
Vamshi, one blind trace. Like Azure, I have VM in one VNet and another VM in different VNet.
Yes.
So what will there will be a VPN connections like site to site. Maybe this VPN site to site will have one availability. No, maybe this will be the listener IP.
No. So at least you raised a point. So if I have to connect two different regions, I mean two different VNets, I need peering. So I have to establish my peering. Peering should be there, but that is not the answer for the multi-subnet to work without VNN or DNN.
Okay.
That is something very new. Like just like why Bahubali killed. Sorry. Katappa killed Bahubali. That's it. I can say that.
Yeah.
Okay. So any questions? So if it's not the case, then I will finish it off, and we can catch next week probably with multi-subnet. Yeah.
Will you be able to take a session on availability groups, how to configure it on premise from the scratch?
On-prem, you will get a lot of information on YouTube. And
if you have any documentation, can you provide the link or anything?
Yeah, I will see that. That's I mean, on-prem is there on YouTube and there are many blogs. So that's why I didn't.
Vamshi, I can give one author name. His name is Rajendra Gupta. He has written Always on Availability Group with 50 clubs. I hope this guy gets some useful information from scratch.
Yes, he's a good guy. Rajendra Gupta. Yeah, I know him.
Yeah.
I have read this.
Ramesh Babu, Swati, Rajesh. Sorry,
Yes.
Ramesh, are you there?
Yes, bro. I was talking with you, right?
Yes,
Okay. Because I don't know if many of you understood or not, but I just went ahead. So if you have any questions, again, I'm saying you can talk to me privately. No problem.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, guys. So next week you will come to know why Katappa killed Bahubali for sure.
Okay.
So if we can find out anything actually why Katappa killed Bahubali, then I'll ping you in that actually chat.
No problem. Open challenge.
You should ping Rajamouli as well. Rajamouli as well.
Hey, this is all for
Otherwise, I will wait.
folks, man.
Wait for the
this is challenging
next
for
release.
anti-SQL folks.
Yeah.
Let's involve Bal Mukund also.
Really, I raised the question to Bal Mukund and he said he is not aware of that. And I contacted few people who are working in Microsoft. They said they are not aware. So I figured it myself after doing some kind of research. Okay, so I'm stopping my missions. If you have any questions, you can reach out to me on my WhatsApp or Telegram, whatever it is, or even my mail ID is there, so you can reach out there as well. Yeah.
In multi-subnet, if availability group is going to be span across multiple subnets, I think can we provide the subnet IDs, group of subnet IDs over there?
We have to, right? So I mean, each and every subnet will have its IP. So I have to pass that. It's very simple answer. If you come to know the answer, you will laugh definitely for sure. After knowing the answer myself, I was like, wow, I don't know about this. So it's very simple, but figuring out is the difficult thing. The answer is very simple, but figuring out is the challenging task.
All right.
Okay, guys, nice talking to you all. So
hey, before we drop off, I have a random question.
Yeah.
Is there anyone who works as a database engineer in Nike? And do you know of anyone or anyone here? Okay, I'll take that as no. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay,
bye.
bye.
Okay, guys.
Bye,
Thank you.
everyone.
Thank you, Vamsi.
No problem.
Thank you very much.
Thank you,
Bye-bye.
Vamshi.
Great time.
Thank you, Vamshi.
Thanks, Vamsi.
Thank you,
Thank you. Thank
Bye-bye.
you very much, Vamsi.
Really great session. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Yeah. Bye.
Thank you, Vamshi.
Thank you, Vamshi. Bye.
Hey,
Where
hello,
can we get
Vikram
the
bhai.
recorded sessions?
bye.
Yeah.
अरे कॉल आ गया अरे क्लोज तो करो
Hello, Vamsi.
Yeah.
Where can we get this recorded sessions details?
So I just recorded. I don't know like where it gets saved, but it's there with me. I will try to paste that content inside our group. I'll see. Recording is there. I just stopped it. Where is that? Pass or